My name is Lynne Hollander Savio, and I am the producer, I guess, and I'm head of the board of directors of the Mario Savio Memorial Lecture and Young Activist Award. And we were due to present the lecture, which was going to be given by Robert Reich on November 15th, which was the day that the Occupy people at Cal had chosen for a campus-wide strike. So we were very concerned that there would be pickets around the Martin Luther King Jr. Student Union, where we put on the lecture in the ballroom, and we weren't going to cross a picket line because that would violate the spirit of Mario Savio, and the ideas that he, was in favor of, and which we're trying to support. And we also were worried that the Occupy people and everybody who was going to participate in this strike might decide that they wanted to come into the ballroom and listen to the lecture. And unfortunately, there's a 1,000-person capacity, which we were already expecting, and we would be shut down by the fire department if that happened. So we were very nervous, and we asked one of our board members, who was a faculty member, to contact the people who were most involved in Occupy and see what could be worked out. And she had graduate students who were very involved. So we found out, once we extended ourselves to reach them, that they had already voted to ask us to hold the lecture outside. And so we ran that past the board, and everybody was in favor of doing that. So, there were a lot of back and forths between whether we could get mics, because I knew that, Occupy wasn't using mics, but we were not going to conduct this lecture and the Young Activist presentation without a loudspeaker. We really needed to have that. So they, dealt with the administration and got permission, and we told the Pauley Ballroom people we wouldn't be there. And that was about it in terms of the setting up. But we really wanted not to be involved in a legal hassle with the police, and because we put on this lecture every year, and we didn't want to get banned from campus. On the other hand, we very much wanted to support the protest. So we were very happy that they were able to get permission, and so we showed up at the time we were supposed to show up, and it was just amazing, because I haven't seen the Sproul Plaza filled like that for 50 years, when we were the biggest rallies of the free speech movement. And I never addressed the free speech movement. I was just in the crowd and in Sproul Hall, but it was amazing to be talking in front of what must have been about 8,000 to 10,000 people. And it was just an incredibly emotional experience, and especially when I introduced and asked the people who had been in the movements of the 60s, the FSM, the civil rights demonstrations, and the anti-war demonstrations, to stand up, and and they were applauded and cheered by the students and the people who are active today, except a lot of us are active today also. And it was just a tremendously moving, emotionally packed moment. And I felt the Occupy people on campus were, from what I understood, they ran a very democratic kind of structure. I do have concerns about the movement. I think that The campus people had some very specific goals, which were, right, and the California higher education has become astronomically expensive when there was a promise that it would be free or very low cost. When I first went to Cal, it was, you could earn in a few hours work per week your tuition and fees for the semester. I think it was under $100, and that's out of sight now. I feel the larger movement should have made clearer what the goals were, and I think that this idea that we can do without leaders is really a mistaken idea. I think you can do that briefly for spontaneous protests, but that to have a movement you have to have leaders who are under democratic control but who lead. And I don't think you can have a movement in which you decide things as a group and then subgroups decide, well, we don't have to abide by the majority decision. We can just go ahead and do our own thing. I think it's a very divisive tactic and really does you in the long run. So I do have my reservations about that, but I think that the greatest thing that Occupy, no matter what happens with those people now, really did achieve something tremendous in that they turned the conversation. The national conversation had all been about debt reduction and how we can control the debt and the deficit. And this is a very rich country. I'm sure that has to be done, but it can't be the only thing we are concerned about. And the attention that Occupy brought to the income inequality and the destruction of the middle class and the working class in this country, the lowering of those people's standards of living compared to what has been happening to the 1% and the 2%, Occupy turned the conversation, and that was terribly important and really critical, and I hope that it goes somewhere. It already has, I think.